Hello and welcome to the SpeakerPath. I'm Brian Miller, founder and principal consultant at Clarity Up, and I'm here today with our presence and performance specialist, Jo. Hey, Jo.
Hey, Brian.
So we're going to do something really, really fun today. I've got a bunch of clips that I've pulled up for you to react to through the lens of presence and performance. Now, some of these are kind of TED Talks. Some of them are TED-style talks at non-TED events. Some of them are, I think I've got an interview. I've got just like a YouTuber in here. So I've got a few different things. And what we're going to do is I'm going to play each of these clips for you twice. The first time, you're going to listen with your eyes closed to the first 45 seconds or minute, and then I'm going to get your reactions. And then I'm going to let you watch the same clip that you just reacted to and tell us if there's anything different, better, worse, or otherwise, watching it. And we're going to go into these without you knowing who the speaker is in case you already know this person or if you have any baggage associated with them or expectations based on their reputation. Sound good?
Awesome. Yeah, let's go.
All right. So you will now need to close your eyes. All right. Eyes closed.
No peeking.
All right. First one coming at you.
I fell in love for the first time when I was 16. It wasn't with another person, it was with the theater. You may have heard the phrase, the acting bug. Well, I got bit particularly hard by it. From the moment of that initial discovery, I never stopped. School plays, college improv troupes, summer theater apprenticeships. Acting was my passion, my obsession, my motor, my mistress, and eventually my wife. My plan following graduate school was to be a New York stage actor who did the occasional Law and Order. But circumstances took me to Los Angeles, where when I was 29, I did a pilot for a television show called How I Met Your Mother. Until that point, I had been an intermittently successful, though relatively working actor. And then the pilot got picked up, the show went out into the world, and everything changed.
All right. So, Josh Radnor of How I Met Your Mother fame.
When he said How I Met Your Mother, I recognized his voice.
But not until then.
Not until then, oddly enough. Although I thought, hey, I've heard that that timbre somewhere, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Yeah.
So, initial impressions.
Yeah, I felt a groundedness when he starts talking. So he's got this calm about the rhythm he's going on and no nervousness. His breathing is very steady. I didn't get to hear any of those, type of things. No dry mouth. Everything went very smoothly. And I'm not surprised, right? He's an actor with hundreds of hours in front of the camera, so he would be at ease in that situation, even though a keynote can have a certain amount of pressure, even for actors, but he's clearly a pro. And there's a warmth to his voice that really nicely balances the confidence. So he's not a prick, right? He's not just an arrogant, successful actor who made it. He has this warmth, this genuine kind of human experience to what he's talking about. And the variation in rhythm that comes when he had this, I forget the words right now because I was just listening to his voice, but he made this like a kind of a set of three things and then like a surprise at the end, and he made like a really nice strategic pause there. Very, very nice. I really enjoyed listening to that.
Yeah. I'm curious, before we do the video version for you to kind of visually see what he's up to. You said it's not shocking that he was so at ease because he's an actor. But of course, acting in front of a camera or even acting in a stage play is a different thing than a keynote. And as you'll see in a second, this is a major keynote.
Okay.
This is a massive.
There are no double takes. Yeah.
Right. And so I guess I was curious. Do you have any experience working with people who are trained actors? I've only a little bit in the world of entertainment.
a little with musicians rather than actors. And they're used to being on stage and saying a few words to the audience. Sometimes they need to describe part of the process, or they want to tell a little story about how some song came to be, things like that.
Yeah. All right, cool. So let's go back to the beginning and watch Josh do his thing.
I fell in love for the first time when I was 16. It wasn't with another person, it was with the theater. You may have heard the phrase, the acting bug. Well, I got bit particularly hard by it. From the moment of that initial discovery, I never stopped. School plays, college improv troupes, summer theater apprenticeships. Acting was my passion, my obsession, my motor, my mistress, and eventually my wife. My plan following graduate school was to be a New York stage actor who did the occasional Law and Order. But circumstances took me to Los Angeles, where when I was 29, I did a pilot for a television show called How I Met Your Mother. Until that point, I had been an intermittently successful, though relatively working actor. And then the pilot got picked up, the show went out into the world, and everything changed.
I stand corrected. Great pick, Brian. Right, so the first thing I saw, he had this like little kind of twitchy thing when he had his arms just kind of naturally loose on the sides of his body, but his fingers were doing this. So I thought, okay, he is a little nervous. Then I said, okay, nice little smile, like warm little smile, making eye contact with the audience, very good. Still keeping within kind of the drama. He talks about the theater, and he is a little theatrical as he does it. So that's very meta, very, very nice kind of way to deliver this story. And then again, I saw like this kind of little protective gesture here in front of his chest.
Tell me more about that. Why do you call that a protective gesture?
So when we hold our hands or our arms close to the body, it's a sign that we want to keep the space safe. When we open our gestures, what I call T-Rex hands, right? It's close to the body. So rather, when we open and the elbow goes further away and the palms go kind of outward and open, this is a way to say, here I am. And it's about honesty. It's about safety. Again, like I'm not hiding anything. I'm not holding any like hidden knives or arrows, right, that I could sneak up on you with. Whereas when we're here, it's a way to kind of keep safe, keep protected.
Yeah.
And he was doing a little bit of that. Yeah.
Quite a bit of it. Yeah. I mean, I learned that back as a magician, that there's a reason that most entertainers, really great live stage entertainers you see, come out with their arms just way out, palms available to the audience. It's the first thing I do when I hit the stage is I walk briskly to my spot in the middle. I smack my hands together and put my hands way out as if to say, hello, we're here. We're all going to do this thing, without saying a word.
Yeah.
It conveys a tremendous amount of, I think, confidence to the audience that like
trust.
Trust.
Right?
Like,
There's trust.
You're like I'm going to take care of you, audience. You can sit back and relax. You don't need to be nervous that I don't know what I'm doing.
You're safe with me. You're safe with me.
Yeah.
Here I am.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Where do you think that would come from for someone as just absolutely, famous as he is and beloved as he is?
I imagine there's some level of wanting to live up to expectations precisely because of the scale of his accomplishments and in a way, doing How I Met Your Mother for so many years, people tend to, at some point, overlap the character with the real person. So maybe, there's that aura of Ted Mosby that maybe Josh feels like he somehow has to live up to. I don't know. I've never watched any interviews with him talking about that, but I would imagine that that level of fame comes with its pressures. And doing something live in real time. It's one thing to be taking, I don't know, several takes on a set, and it's a totally different kettle of fish being in front of a live audience on a big stage. So that apparently gets to the best of us.
And I think if you actually watched the rest of this at some point, you would actually hear a lot of what you're talking about in his story. And for what it's worth, this is like my favorite not a TED Talk. I'm obsessed. This is called Fame's Lesson Plan by Josh Radnor. We'll have all the links to all these in the show notes anywhere, so you can go watch them for yourself.
I know what I'm doing tonight.
It's just a magnificent talk, but he absolutely looks nervous and a little just a little uncomfortable at the beginning.
Fascinating though that his voice was so steady.
Yeah.
So that shows just what level of professionalism he's capable of. The fact that he can control his intonation, his tone, his timbre, his breath. It's absolutely fantastic. So I think this can be an incredible example to anyone who's worried about sounding or coming off as nervous on stage, definitely in terms of voice control. So very cool.
Before we go to the next one, listen, Josh Radnor does not need our help or our advice, but should you have been, if you were in a situation where Josh came to you and said, hey, listen, I've given a talk or two like this before, here's how it went, this is kind of thing, I'm about to give another one, what advice would you have for him just based on that?
Oh, I'm feeling a little starstruck right now. Imagining that I would be able to support Josh Radnor. So the first thing I would do would be to establish rapport with him and make him feel at ease and that he can trust me, and see if we can explore a little bit what is happening for him in that moment. So when he does experience that nervousness, what is that about? What does it feel like? Where does it come from? What is the need that he feels in that moment? And how can we kind of stop time for a second to address that? And it can be just that maybe he needs to take a breath. Maybe he needs, 5 minutes of calming breathing practice before he goes on stage. Maybe in the moment, as he is on stage, he needs to kind of feel the emotion, name it, feel his body, so that he can come back into the present and not worried about, what might people be thinking? So to kind of break through that mental chatter. It can be any number of things, but this is where I would start.
Great. Okay, example number 2 coming up right now. You will first, Jo, you will hear a man's voice who's asking, this is a live panel in front of an audience, this is a fireside. It's just an interview. It's a live interview in front of an audience. You'll hear a man's voice ask a question, but it's a woman who is doing the talking that you'll be listening for.
How would you define personal brand is what I would like to say.
Well, I think we're in the age of AI, right? We all know this. You guys are seeing more content being created than ever. You're seeing more jobs being outsourced to technology than ever. We invest in it every single day. And I think when I started doing content, 4 years ago online, and caring about a personal brand, I was nowhere before 4 years ago. Never had filmed a video, never had done a podcast. I was a nerd in a spreadsheet in Excel. That's my happy place as an investor. I actually don't really love doing videos all the time. But I started to realize something, and that was that the ultimate differentiator that nobody sophisticated wants to acknowledge is not going to be capital, how much money that you have. And I know this because my friends at Sequoia, who are big, huge investors, they only allow nonprofits to invest now. They will not take actively many people's money. And simultaneously, the people who are building businesses now, who built these big, huge SaaS companies and these big tech companies, what are they starting to realize? It's not product that's king, it's distribution.
All right. So this is Cody Sanchez, who this was actually at the event I spoke at in Vegas just about a month ago. I was literally backstage. I was going on right after her. So this was happening. I was literally backstage while this was happening, listening to her, watching her on a monitor.
How was that for you?
It was wonderful. I mean, I'm a big fan. I mean, like anybody in the business content space, I don't agree with everything she talks about. I don't agree with all of her business philosophies, but it'd be silly if I did. But I think, well, I don't want to tell you anything about what I think about her as a presenter. Okay. How do you feel?
So what I heard was a lot of energy in her voice, and that's through volume. She had great volume. She was not shy to use her voice. She had different rhythm and different intonations at different segments of her answer. When she was making kind of parallel, using parallel, she goes, So she had this very, very easy, it was very easy to follow her points because of her voice, the way that she used her voice. And I didn't know who this was, but in my head, as I kind of imagined this person speaking, I could even see like hand gestures and movement, because that's just how dynamic her voice came out. So really wonderful.
Yeah. Do you think, so make a prediction now, when I show you the video, do you think that her visual presence is going to match up with the audio performance that you heard?
I think so. Okay. Yeah, I expect to see some hand gestures.
All right, let's do it.
How would you define personal brand is what I would like to say.
Well, I think we're in the age of AI, right? We all know this. You guys are seeing more content being created than ever. You're seeing more jobs being outsourced to technology than ever. We invest in it every single day. And I think when I started doing content, 4 years ago online, and caring about a personal brand, I was nowhere before 4 years ago. Never had filmed a video, never had done a podcast. I was a nerd in a spreadsheet in Excel. That's my happy place as an investor.
I think that's probably enough of the video for
sure.
You. So did it match up in your head?
Absolutely. And it actually exceeded my expectations of what I thought I would see. So I see a lot of power in her posture. She's sitting, but still very upright, very open gestures, right? She's really taking up that space on that armchair, really kind of marking her territory with her elbows, with her arms, and opening up and having energy, not just in her voice, but also in her gestures. So this is, by the way, something we're going to do in an upcoming masterclass in the SpeakerPath community, talking about energy in the gestures, right? She doesn't have like flabby fingers and, oh yeah, this was my happy place in the Excel sheet. She's like, this was my, like, really open palms, very, very nice. And at the same time, keeping things casual and conversational. She's got the register that makes her sound like you and me. She's not a technical investor. She's not, or maybe she is, but she doesn't talk like one. I feel like I could relate to her. If I wanted to start investing, I would look up to Codie for that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it was amazing because I was literally watching on a monitor backstage. I wasn't there in the audience. About 1,000+ people in the audience, massive high energy event. And just even watching on the monitor, it was so powerful. Like, I didn't even have to be in the actual room with her in front of me. It was so powerful. And my mom came to this event because I happened to be speaking on my birthday, and she flew to Vegas from the other side of the country just to see me speak. And so she was able to attend the day I was speaking for the whole conference. She's never been to a conference like this, my mom, and she just could not stop talking about Codie. My mom's a woman in tech. She's a computer scientist who's had to deal with the male-dominated thing and just, getting talked over in this, like, no matter how bright and how successful she's been. And she was just so enamored with Codie. And not just what I think it was less what she talked about and just more how she showed up.
How she talked about it. Yes. Yes. Power is the word. Definitely.
Yeah.
And if Codie allows, if I may,
yes,
again, feel a little starstruck and imagine that I someday might support Codie Sanchez with her stage presence, I feel like there's room for a little bit more warmth in how she shows up. If that's something she wants, it may not be something she wants to do. This may not be how she wants to present herself, and there can be fair considerations for that. But if I was kind of working on her presence, this is one thing that I would maybe put on the table for her to consider.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because like you said, if she wants that, because it is, I would agree, she's lacking warmth. The question is she lacking it intentionally? And
that's the question.
I follow her content, and I've read her book, and I've seen her interact 6 feet from me in the green room with other people. I'm not convinced that she wants to project warmth. I think,
and that's fair.
It's interesting.
So long as it's intentional.
I have no idea.
Perfectly legitimate choice to make.
I get the sense that as a personal brand, she's decided, I'm going to be the no BS, tell it like it is. I can hang with the boys. I can hang with the Gary V's and the Alex Hormozis and the whatever. And just do what they're doing, but do it from my perspective. But I would agree that it's that she's lacking warmth in her performance.
Yeah. So a deeper question would be, where does that choice come from? Is that because that's really how you feel like you're being authentic to yourself? Or is it because you feel like you want to? And this is a question not just pertaining to Codie Sanchez. So many women in the business world, particularly, C-level and boards, face this question. Do I need to put on a certain suit, right? A metaphorical suit of a persona that makes me be able to play on the same in the same sandbox as the big boys. And what does that mean for me? How does that make me feel? Am I able to give the best of myself wearing that suit, or would it actually feel lighter to take that suit off? All questions for probably a different conversation.
Great. All right, our third and final example for today.
My name's Scott Galloway. I teach at NYU, and I appreciate your time. I have 44 slides in 720 seconds. Let's light this candle. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm actually a global television store. True story. I've had 4 TV series in the last 3 years. 2 of them have been canceled before they were launched, and 2 were canceled within 6 weeks. Let's recap.
Now, I'm going to pause for a second, because what he's about to do is actually show video montage of all of his failed performances. And so we don't even need to see that. You're welcome to open your eyes, because you know who he is. Okay. You've already heard him.
Right.
We could listen to or watch some more of this, but what are your initial impressions? I mean, I know you know who this person is, and he said his name immediately.
My first reaction was, I'm missing some clarity in his pronunciation. He is talking a little bit as if he's got a potato in his mouth. And that is giving me the feeling that, on the one hand, I have to work harder to understand him, and that's not what we would advise our clients to make their audience do. And it makes me feel less trust, less confidence in this person. So, like, as if the clarity of his speech is impacting his credibility. So that was my first reaction listening. Other than that, very, very conversational tone, a lot of humor, clearly, and very, very nice diversity in the moments when he wants to kind of make a funny point, right? When he wants to land the joke, that's really well done. The clarity and pronunciation is the one thing that kind of really captured my attention, and I actually had to work a bit hard to move away from that and hear other things in his voice.
That's interesting. So of course, okay. So Scott Galloway. I mean, he's tremendously successful, very famous in the podcasting space. They have massively successful. Last time he's super open about numbers. I think he said his podcast network makes $20 million a year alone, just the podcasts that they run. He's tremendously successful and open about that stuff. Do you think that I get the sense, as far as I can tell from his history, he started giving speeches and getting invited to give speeches after becoming very successful in business and not before. Do you think that folks in that situation get a pass or don't have to work as hard to work on the kind of things that we would normally have our, non-famous scientists and academics working on?
Possibly. I can think of a number of other people who would fit that description as well. And they're all kind of famous podcasters. And it's true that once you are kind of an established name, you can get away with some of these. I don't even want to call them imperfections, but I don't have a better word right now, like specificities in their style, let's say. But yeah, I don't know. I must say I surprised myself a little bit at how much space this took for me, just here and now. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the conversation around this one is really when a speaker or aspiring speaker is looking for examples to follow, do they need to be careful that they're looking for examples of people who became successful through speaking versus like they got good at speaking, which is what led to their success, versus people are already famous. They're just getting hired to show up because their face sells tickets. Is that important, or is there something else going on?
Yes, definitely. I think if you're looking for role models, you would want to look for things that people do really well, not because of who they are, but because of how they do them. So if you are looking for someone who projects great power, we just saw Cody Sanchez doing a brilliant demonstration of that. Maybe if you're looking for someone to aspire to or to learn from in terms of being a little casual, I don't know that I would choose precisely Scott Galloway as a model, although, his work is absolutely undeniable. I think there are ways to do that don't make the listener really try to distinguish the words. Especially if you're aiming for an international audience. I think within the US, and a lot of our clients speak in the US and they work in the US, but they may want to at some point expand. And even within the US, there are so many people, coming to work there or living there or doing business there from other parts of the world who might actually not engage or not have you as their first choice because it's hard to talk to you. You don't want them to have to make that effort. You want to make it as easy as possible for people to listen and as pleasant as possible for people to listen and to follow you. Yeah.
It's a really good point. I'd like to try an experiment. I skipped a little ahead. He's got like a minute's worth of jokes before he really gets into it. And so I skipped ahead past the jokes to what I think is essentially the start of the talk. Like if he were really doing what we preach, that this is where the talk would really start. He was obviously playing to the crowd and having fun at TED here. I want to see if you, just for another 20, 30 seconds here, if watching him changes, because you mentioned that potato mouth kind of thing. But I wonder if watching it or having a better sense of what to expect now changes anything about how you view him. So
I'm curious.
Let's take a few more seconds here.
Okay. I start us with a question. Do we love our children? Sounds like an illegitimate question, right? Well, I'm going to try and convince you otherwise. Essentially, as we go down generations, we're seeing that for the last 2 generations, people are making less money on an inflation-adjusted basis. In addition, the cost of buying a home, the cost of pursuing education continues to skyrocket. So the purchasing power, the prosperity is inversely correlated to age. Simply put, as we get younger, we're taking away opportunity and prosperity from our youngest.
Yeah. So he's not opening his mouth. He's talking with his mouth very, very closed and with a very neutral, even expression on his face, which again doesn't contribute to vocal variety. His posture is, relaxed, fine. maybe a little bit too casual for my taste with his hand in his pocket, but some people really like that. And, who am I to convince them otherwise?
Yeah.
But it just tells me that he's either really at ease or really stressed, one of the two. I can't really tell.
That's interesting. Why would that be one of the two? I mean, I read this as being incredibly at ease. I mean, that's how it struck me. I also, he's been a professor, at what is it, NYU Stern for forever. So I'm like, I know he's comfortable in front of an audience. And he reads as one of the I'm so wealthy, none of this matters. So I just gonna do whatever I want to do. Is that, I don't know if that's good or bad. That's how it reads to me.
Yeah, there's definitely a point of relaxation around public speaking that is too much. And this could be one such example where, you're just like, just a little bit careless about being there. But the reason I say either too relaxed or very stressed is because freeze can look like relaxation sometimes.
Interesting.
So the more immobile you are, the fact that there's nothing happening on his face, there's not even his cheeks are not moving. I'm not seeing any movement on his forehead, on his eyebrows. His eyes are not particularly focused anywhere. They're just kind of like cruising somewhere, and his mouth is barely opening. Again, he's either so relaxed or, I don't know, on something. Maybe we should cut that.
Oh, no, he's pretty open about that stuff.
Okay. Or experiencing a high level of stress that's getting him close to freeze. I tend to think that's probably not the case, but it is what it looks like. And if he was not who he is, I would want to check in on that. If he was not Scott Galloway, he was my client, and he was showing up like this, I would check on that and see, what was happening for you there. And also, sometimes being too relaxed is a coping mechanism. So
that's interesting.
That's that's what I'd investigate.
I would have never even thought about being too relaxed as being a coping mechanism, but I could see that as being if I convince myself that this is just so casual that it really doesn't matter. Then I don't have to deal with the consequences or how
what
big,
it means.
how big a deal this actually is.
Yeah. Then I don't have to be good or bad because it doesn't matter anyway. Yeah. I don't have to live up to expectations. Again, it's so much like public speaking is so much about living up to expectations. I hear this from every single client because you're exposing yourself, you're making yourself visible and, subject to critique. And whose voice is that? Right? I mean, it's very often a critical voice in our head before it is a critical voice out in the real world. And that is very, very hard to deal with. So I don't know. I'm really curious. I'm excited to explore that with Scott Galloway. Should he ever listen to our podcast?
No, I think this is really interesting. I'm glad we did this one because, of course, the talk itself did phenomenal. I mean, it's got 7 million views in a year. I mean, it's a very, very successful talk. Now he's already got a built-in audience of millions to start with, which certainly helps when you're that famous. And I do wonder, though, part of me wonders just a little bit if this would have not been nearly as successful if he wasn't already famous for some of those reasons. Like I quite enjoyed it. I like Scott. I like his work. So I quite enjoyed the talk. But I know his personality. Yeah. I know the way he delivers. I'm used to his voice. He has a relatively monotone way of speaking. And so I'm used to that. He always jokes about that whole he's got a face for podcasting kind of a thing. Like he really his voice alone on a podcast is he's got that real bass, that just soothes you. But I do wonder if his presence, his performance, and maybe in a future episode we can talk the structure. I wonder if the structure of this talk, actually, when I watched it, I didn't clock any of the structure of it because I just enjoy watching him. I wonder if it's if the structure is so good that the performance just didn't matter, that the talk is just it just did what it needed to do, or if it's not and the talk's doing what it needs to do because he's got an audience of people who are interested in listening to him. It's hard. It's interesting. It's hard to say. So
now I'm really curious to see the rest of it.
Yeah. So pull us in here for this episode. What I don't know. What did we learn today? What can our listeners do as they're preparing for their next presentation?
So the very, very first thing to do is to be mindful of what you're experiencing in your body physically, because that is a cue in terms of how present you are in the room on the one hand, and how well you're able to manage your internal state in order to communicate outwardly what you need to communicate. So exercises like body scans, mindful meditation, non-sleep, deep rest, types of things. All of those resources are free and available on YouTube, on Google, everywhere. Go out, look them up, try them, see what works for you so that you can get used to being physically in your body. Otherwise, it's very hard to control your gestures, your face, and the voice is a product of emotion plus movement. So if you want to have like a nice, steady, grounded, energized voice, the first thing to do is to be in touch with your body. And the breath is an essential part of that. So that would be my number one recommendation.
Fantastic. All right, I'm thrilled we did this. Thanks so much for watching these, listening to these. Let's do this again sometime.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks for listening to the Speaker Path. We'll speak soon.